Hey everyone, it's Taryn, the Remote Yogi, and today I wanted to dive into one of my favorite spiritual teachers on the planet, one of my biggest influences on the way I teach and the way that I coach people, and that's Gabrielle Bernstein. So of course, if you've been following me for a while now, you know that I love to gush about her and her work and the coaching I've done with her, because this lady has literally come in and changed my life. Side note, talking about Gabby makes me so excited, so I'm probably going to be moving around the house and having a lot of different levels of energy and just be prepared for it. I'm just excited to be talking about Gabby today, and sorry for the shaky camera. So of course, Gabby's work, whether watching her videos or reading her books or attending her Spirit Junkie classes, every little piece of it has just changed my life and changed my mindset and brought me so much joy and peace and appreciation for myself and who I am. And so that's why I can't help but want to share her message with the world, because I just find everything she teaches to be so easy to grasp and has helped me to really make the changes in my life, to be traveling the world, to be as happy and full of self-worth as I am now. And it's through the lessons I've learned. And for those of you who read my blog post on Tuesday this week about growing up in the church and how it really wrecked my sense of faith for a long time, having found something in my early 20s that brought hope back into my life, that made me think that maybe there is something greater out there, that maybe I can put my faith into something bigger than myself, was huge, because I had really let myself be disenchanted by any kind of idea that I could be part of something bigger than myself, or that there was something that I could rely on outside of my own strength and who I was. So I wanted to break down really fast some of the key lessons that I've learned through Gabby's books and through working with Gabby for the last couple of years, and hopefully encourage some of you guys to pick up her work and dive in and get filled in with goodness. My biggest lesson, number one, would be understanding that everything either comes out of love or it comes out of fear. That I bring you guys into my little altar space for a second. So everything in our lives comes back to either love or fear, whether we're reacting out of a place of love or reacting out of a place of fear. So Gabby is one of the many spiritual teachers who instructs from the Course in Miracles. This is a metaphysical text on pretty much how to bring about miracles in your own life through these amazing beliefs. And so it breaks down for you what it looks like to be living in fear and what it looks like to be living in love. So the reason this was so important to me is because it broke it down into something so simple. I'm either responding from a place of love or I'm responding from a place of fear. I'm either, moving forward in a fear-based state or I'm moving forward in a love-based state. And what does that look like? So if I am responding to something out of anger, out of judgment, out of shame, this is a fear-based state. This is me expressing fear, and it's going to keep me separated from love. And what's under love? It's gratitude, it's joy, it's connection, it's consciousness. So I know that sounds kind of complicated, but it's actually the simplest thing I've ever learned about anything spiritual-based or faith-based. It's just, if I'm not living in love, I'm living in fear, and vice versa. And I always want to be living in love. That's where we find our greatest joy. That's where we're able to contribute the most to the world. And Gabby makes this so easy. So one of the things I do is when I notice that I'm living in a place of fear, or I'm responding from a place of fear, whether it's me judging somebody else or me judging myself or whatever it might be, I simply remind myself that I have the ability to change how I'm thinking. I have the ability to change my energy. And sometimes it's just as simple as saying, I choose to see this differently. I choose love. It's one of Gabby's biggest affirmations that have just hit home with me in my life. And I find myself repeating this all throughout the day. When I find myself kind of venturing down this either pity party or just a place of anger or separation, I return to this. Number two, I love all of the work she's done on forgiveness. And I talk about this a lot on my blog and in my coaching practice. Whether we need to forgive other people or forgive ourselves or forgive our circumstances, forgiveness is one of the biggest steps towards getting back to that love state. So when we're living in this place of fear, rejection, shame, oftentimes we have to walk through forgiveness to be able to come out on the other side of love. So just affirming to ourselves over and over again that we choose to not see fear, we choose love, that's great. But until we do the internal work to move forward, it's still gonna feel very fear-based. And so we gotta change that. One of the biggest lessons I had to learn when it comes to forgiveness is that it's not usually for the other person. So let's say, in my marriage, I had a lot of things that I needed to forgive my ex-husband for. And when we get into a fear-based state, we have these beliefs that if I forgive them, then it's going to be okay, or they're just going to continue to behave badly, or I can't let them off the hook by forgiving them. We've got these negative concepts of it, when really forgiveness is about letting it go on my end. I can't move forward and be in a happy place until I choose to forgive people who have wronged me in my life. And it's not for them. It's purely for me to be able to say, I'm done with this. This is no longer part of my story. I'm going to forgive and let go and move forward. It doesn't mean that we condone the behavior. It doesn't mean we have to continue to put up with it. But we're never going to feel that internal peace in any situation until we can forgive the other people involved and move forward. So for me, it's actually always been easier to forgive other people. I always just assume that they're doing their best, that they can. What I had a harder time with was forgiving myself and knowing the mistakes I've made in my life, the mistakes I've made in my marriage and in my businesses and things like that, and being able to forgive myself through her lessons, through the way she guides us through it so beautifully in her coursework. That has been profound for me, because once I was able to forgive myself, I was able to say, okay, let's react from a place of love instead of a place of fear, understanding that I have learned these lessons because I get to move forward now and share them with you guys and share them with people who need them. And it was so healing for me to be able to say, I've made wrong choices in my life. I've made tons of them, and I'm still a good human. I'm still a good person. That was really profound for me. My third favorite lesson is all about releasing the idea of special. So this was really big for me because I found Gabby's work when I was in my marriage, and it was having a hard time for me. I was struggling in my marriage. And one of the big things she talks about is how we tend to make other people special in our lives. And I noticed after reading Gabby's books that I tended to do this in a lot of my romantic relationships. So I always had this codependency or neediness in my relationship because I firmly believed that my partners were more special than I was, or there was something about them that made them really unique. And I really like to put people I looked up to on a pedestal in my life, which made me kind of separate from them, which is also why I cling to relationships, because I thought that they were so cool, they were so special, and if I lose them, I won't be able to find anyone else who is that cool, because I just considered myself lower than, less than these other people in my life. But I found this to be really important in all aspects of life. So yeah, it was important to break down the fact that my partners weren't more special than I was, and to release that clinginess to someone I thought was special. But it helped me also to release the idea that anyone is more special. So this really forced me to look at how I make people special in all areas of my life, whether it was, my parents as a kid. You always think that your parents are special and amazing, or, the leaders that we follow, whether they're, sports people or celebrities, or, for me, it's Gabby and Marie Forleo and people like that. I know this is hard. I still have a hard time taking Gabby off that pedestal, of taking people who inspire me off that pedestal. I watch so many podcasts and read so many books, and I just love all of these authors and things, and I have so much respect for them. But I have to constantly remind myself that we're at the same level, that no one is better than or less than me. And it actually makes me so inspired, because I know we're all on even playing fields. When I see somebody else accomplishing awesome things that I want to, I get to say, awesome, look at them accomplishing that. that means I could do it too, because we're all on equal playing fields. We all are equal, and there's none of this like idea that, oh, they're an influencer or they're, you know, this famous celebrity, that's why they're able to do these things. That belief is gone. I fully believe that all of us are capable of anything that we really want to accomplish if we put the time and energy into it. One of the greatest things about having trained with Gabrielle Bernstein in person is that I saw her humanness. I saw that she was, you know, an amazing presence and something that I really aspire to be as far as how she carries herself and how she presents herself. But at the end of the day, she felt real to me. She felt like an ordinary person sitting up in front of the room, like I could be in her place. And that's what we want to create when we're, you know, building bonds, whether it's with your clients or with friends or whatever, that there's this idea that we're all the same. There's no separation, there's just pure equality. And so to do that, we've got to start taking people off pedestals. For those who know my story on getting married young and getting a young divorce, I always talk about how much yoga was a huge part of my ability to leave my ex-husband. It was through the yoga community, the support, the kind of belief I was able to establish in myself. But also Gabby's work was a catalyst in me moving forward, because I had felt a lot of shame about the idea of a divorce. I had felt like ending the relationship was the farthest thing from love. It was me being selfish. It was me, you know, being self-centered, because I needed to get out and I needed to do my own thing. However, in reading Spirit Junkie, Gabby introduced me to the idea that we can have amazing relationships that are temporary, that all relationships, whether you met somebody in the grocery store for 5 minutes or they're a part of your life for 10 plus years, everyone we interact with is there to teach us some kind of a lesson. And sometimes they're here to share the lesson and then they go. And there's nothing to fear about. This was so important to me, because I felt like in leaving my relationship, I was failing. And Gabby made it so clear to me that by leaving this relationship, I was actually doing the best thing for both of us. She calls it like the holy instant, when you're able to walk away from something that's no longer serving you and do it from a place of love. When I had the conversation with my husband about my moving out, it was so peaceful. I never could have imagined my divorce going as smoothly as it did, that I would come out the other side feeling as good as I did. And it was from the understanding that I could fully love my ex-husband, and still do, and still be okay with the fact that it's time for us to part ways, that our lessons have been learned. We've got the most we can get out of each other, and it's time to go our own separate paths. And this is true for jobs, this is true for friendships, this is true for, you know, any part of your life that you just decide, hey, this is no longer serving us. Thank you so much for the lessons that you were able to teach me, but it's time for things to kind of separate. And this lesson is what helped me to leave my marriage and not feel so much shame and guilt about the person I was, or what it meant to be somebody who gets divorced at such a young age. I just knew that I had learned my lesson, and I was going to move forward with love, and I was going to keep sharing love with the world, because I wasn't a terrible person for having wanted to get a divorce. This idea that all relationships are meant to be lessons has been another one that, okay, yes, it helped me get out of my marriage beautifully, that was great, but also it's helped me to really appreciate every conversation I've had since then. I now make sure that I am open to receiving messages and lessons and ideas from strangers. Every time I have a conversation, I'm open to receiving whatever kind of lesson might be out there for me today. And it just makes me appreciate connection a whole heck of a lot more than I did before. If you haven't checked out any of Gabby's work before, I highly suggest you either look her up on YouTube, watch some of her amazing talks at Wanderlust, and her TED Talk is phenomenal, but also pick up her books. Spirit Junkie literally changed my life. Also a huge fan of her book, May Cause Miracles. It's a 40-day guidebook that takes you through like little lessons every single day to start implementing to create this change, to move closer to love and further from fear, to work through the forgiveness, to work into that self-worth aspect. This guidebook's amazing. It's why I'm so pumped to be starting a group coaching course around this book. I am so excited about being able to lead some badass chicks through her 40-day guidebook, May Cause Miracles. This is part of the training I was able to do with her in New York, is to be able to bring this to you guys and teach you her lessons and be able to cultivate this space of like, let's be accountable as we learn together, and let's bring our stories to each other and just create a space of like, okay, we're learning some real shit. Let's do it together and let's do it in a safe space. So if you're interested in joining my group coaching course on that, it's launching in a couple weeks. Make sure to head over to the blog, theremoteyogi.blog, to get all the details on it, or send me a message on Facebook, on Instagram, and let's chat. I would love to get you into Gabby's work as quickly as possible, and this is really the best way for me to do so. And I get to like guide you and hold your hand through it and all the things that it brought about in my life and my personal stories, because this is just the tip of the iceberg, you guys. There's so much more that I've been able to learn and bring about in my life and make changes and become this like bubbly, happy girl who wears yellow. Like, I would have never thought that would be me. Thank you so much. If you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, make sure to come back every Friday for a new episode. And of course, make sure to head over to the blog, theremoteyogi.blog, to get all the good links, to get the information on that course, to keep up with all my other posts and things coming up here at The Remote Yogi. Thank you so much for being awesome and continuing to stick around here. We'll see you guys next week.